This video is brought to you by Too Long. That's the official TLDR newspaper we've made and which is available to order right now. Today, Israel and Hamas agree to a temporary truce to release hostages. North Korea successfully launches its first spy satellite, and the Thai government approves draft legislation to legalise same-sex marriage. From TLDR News, this is your daily briefing for Wednesday the 22nd of November 2023. Israel and Hamas have agreed a 4-day pause in fighting to facilitate the release of hostages, which, if it holds, will be the first significant pause in hostilities since the war broke out on October the 7th. Reports say that under the deal, Hamas is expected to release 50 hostages, comprising women and children, plus for every additional 10 hostages released, the pause would be extended by another day. If 50 hostages are released, then there will still be just short of 200 hostages held by Hamas in Gaza. In exchange, according to a Hamas statement, Israel will release up to 150 Palestinian women and children from its own prisons. The release of hostages and prisoners will take place in batches over the coming days, reportedly beginning on Thursday, as both sides test the durability of the truce. The deal is also expected to allow hundreds of trucks carrying humanitarian aid, medical supplies and fuel into Gaza, which is in a desperate situation after more than a month of siege, intense bombing and a ground invasion by Israeli forces. The diplomatic breakthrough comes after weeks of negotiations brokered by Qatar, with the involvement of the United States and Egypt, and has been welcomed by leaders across the world. US President Joe Biden said he was extraordinarily gratified and added that the deal should bring home a handful of American hostages. Qatar's Prime Minister says that he hopes the 4-day truce will lead to a lasting peace process, saying, "We hope that it will establish a comprehensive and sustainable agreement that will put an end to the war and the bloodshed, and lead to serious talks for a comprehensive and just peace process." However, any hopes that this might turn into a long-term or permanent truce might be overly optimistic. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israel's mission remained the same, saying in a recorded message, "We are at war, and we will continue the war until we achieve all our goals. To destroy Hamas, return all hostages, and ensure that no entity in Gaza can threaten Israel." He, in fact, argued that the truce will not harm the war effort, but will enable the IDF to prepare for the continuation of the fighting. Meanwhile, a Hamas statement said, "As we announce the striking of a truce agreement, we affirm that our fingers remain on the trigger, and our victorious fighters will remain on the lookout to defend our people and defeat the occupation." There's more on the way, but be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to make the daily briefing part of your daily routine, or just search for us on your podcast app to listen along. As part of the wider fallout from the war in Gaza, the United States has carried out a series of strikes against Iranian-backed militias in Iraq, after close-range missiles were launched at US and coalition forces at Iraq's Al-Assad airbase. American officials said the US immediately responded in self-defense to that attack by firing on a vehicle, killing a number of militants. Then, US fighter aircraft targeted and destroyed facilities south of Baghdad used by Kataib Hezbollah, an Iraqi militia with close ties to Iran. US and allied forces have been targeted dozens of times by groups in Iraq and Syria since the conflict in Israel and Gaza escalated. So far, the US has limited its response to these attacks with just 3 sets of strikes in Syria. So the US strikes on Tuesday were the first publicly reported ones in Iraq since the recent escalation. The US has around 900 troops in Syria and 2,500 in Iraq, with a stated aim of advising and assisting local forces trying to prevent a resurgence of the so-called Islamic State. At least 62 US personnel have suffered minor injuries or traumatic brain injuries in the attacks by Iran-backed groups since October the 17th. South Korea has suspended part of a 2018 military agreement with North Korea after the North launched a spy satellite, an apparent breach of UN Security Council resolutions due to its use of ballistic missile technology. North Korean authorities say the launch on Tuesday was a success, meaning it's North Korea's first satellite in orbit, having had 2 failed attempts earlier this year. It was also North Korea's first launch since Kim Jong-un met with Vladimir Putin at a Russian space facility, where the Russian president promised to help North Korea build satellites. The launch has been condemned by the US, South Korea, Japan, and the UN Secretary General for violating multiple UN Security Council resolutions on North Korean missile technology. Residents of Okinawa, Japan, were told to take cover by the emergency warning system as the rocket passed overhead, though the warning was lifted after the rocket continued on its course. South Korea said the launch violated the 2018 Comprehensive Military Agreement, which was designed to reduce military tension, and the 2 Koreas agreed to completely cease all hostile acts against each other. As such, South Korea says it's suspending part of said agreement, allowing it to restore reconnaissance and surveillance activities along the border. Thailand's cabinet has approved legislation to legalise same-sex marriage in the country and plans to submit the draft to Parliament next month. If successful, Thailand would become the first Southeast Asian nation to legalise same-sex marriage, and would be only the 3rd Asian nation to do so after Taiwan in 2019 and Nepal in 2023. The draft bill amends the civil code to change the words men and women and husband and wife to individuals, and marriage partners, allowing for same-sex couples to be able to receive the same rights as heterosexual couples. A government spokesperson said the next step would be to amend the pension fund law to recognise same-sex couples. Activists say that despite Thailand having one of the most open and vibrant LGBT+ communities, its laws and institutions do not reflect the country's changing social values. Past attempts to legalise same-sex marriage in Thailand have failed, but the Pheu Thai party-led government, which took office in August, is making a renewed attempt, having been one of the few parties to pledge to do so at this year's election in May. The bill will be introduced in Parliament on December the 12th, and if passed, will go to the Thai King for his approval. In some uplifting news, progress has been made in the efforts to rescue 41 trapped workers in the Indian state of Uttarakhand after a tunnel collapsed 10 days ago. Rescue teams believe that they're close to a breakthrough, and on Monday an endoscopic camera captured and relayed the first images of the workers to their relatives. They've been supplied with oxygen, dry snacks and water through a small pipeline, but a new wider pipeline was able to give them their first hot meal in 10 days, as well as other essentials. If you want more from TLDR and want to support our journalism, consider picking up a copy of our newspaper, Too Long. This is a one-off physical newspaper we've been working on over the last few months, which includes 32 pages of analysis and explainers from the TLDR team on everything from Ukraine and Gaza to the state of the French and German governments, or the upcoming elections in the UK, US and around the world. It's not just us either. We have a full interview with creator and journalist Johnny Harris that people who buy the newspaper can also watch via a special QR code. Plus, there's articles from a ton of other creators, including JJ McCullough, Search Party, Sophia Smith-Gaylor, and many more. This really has been a very exciting project for us to work on, and hopefully you can already see all the work we've put into it, even the TLDR-themed crossword. So if you want to pick up a copy and help fund our journalism on YouTube as we head into 2024, then the link to the store is in the description. Plus, you can get 20% off your purchase this week only by using code TLDRDAILY at checkout. And with a limited quantity available, if you do want one, I'd order soon, especially if you want it before Christmas. As always, thanks so much for your support, and I hope you like this silly but genuinely very good project as much as we do. Thank you.